Captain Elena Vasquez had been assigned to many worlds in her 15 years of interspecies diplomatic service. But Kepler 442b felt different the moment she stepped off the transport shuttle. The gravity was lighter than Earth's standard. The air carried strange floral scents that made her sinuses tingle, and the twin suns cast everything in an amber glow that seemed to pulse with life. "Remember, Captain?" Ambassador Trell's translator crackled as the insectoid diplomat's mandibles clicked nervously. "The Velani are a peaceful species. Their young, what they call cubs, are precious beyond measure. A single cub represents years of careful genetic cultivation. Losing one would be catastrophic to their community." Elena nodded, adjusting the environmental scanner on her belt. "Understood. I'm here to assess the viability of establishing a human research outpost. Nothing more." But as they walked through the crystalline forest toward the Velani settlement, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. Her hand instinctively drifted to the plasma pistol at her hip, a habit that had kept her alive on dozens of worlds. The Velani village was unlike anything she'd seen. Structures grew from the ground itself, organic curves that seemed more cultivated than built. The Velani themselves were even more striking. Tall, graceful beings with silver fur that shimmered in the double sunlight, large expressive eyes, and an aura of serene intelligence. Elder HFY approached them with the measured gait of someone who had lived many centuries. When she spoke, her voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, even through the translator. "Welcome, human Captain Elena. We have heard much of your species' curiosity and intensity." "All good things, I hope," Elena replied, offering the traditional Velani greeting gesture she'd studied during the flight. "Your species fascinates us," HFY continued. "You are predators who chose to become protectors. Hunters who learned to nurture. It is unusual in our experience." Before Elena could respond, a commotion erupted from the direction of the forest. 3 small figures burst from the undergrowth. Velani cubs, no larger than human children, their silver fur dark with fierce sweat. Behind them came sounds that made Elena's blood run cold. The howls and snarls of pack hunters. "The Mor'geth," HFY's translator screeched in panic. "They've broken through the barrier." Elena was moving before conscious thought took hold. Her body recognized threat assessment, tactical positioning, protection protocols, all the training that had been drilled into her since childhood on the frontier colonies where survival meant fighting. "Get the cubs behind me," she barked, drawing her plasma pistol as dark shapes began emerging from the treeline. The Mor'geth were nightmares given form. 6-legged predators the size of earth wolves, with obsidian claws and mouths full of crystalline teeth. Their pack hunting formation was textbook perfect, spreading out to surround their prey while leaving no escape route. Elena counted 8 of them, maybe more, in the shadows. The cubs pressed against her back, trembling. She could feel their small hearts racing through their fur, their quiet whimpers of terror. Ambassador Trell had retreated behind a crystal formation, mandibles clicking frantically as he called for backup that was still minutes away. But minutes might as well have been hours. The Alpha Mor'geth stepped forward, its intelligent eyes sizing up this strange new threat. It tilted its head, studying Elena with predatory calculation. Then it snarled, and Elena snarled right back. The sound that came from Elena's throat surprised even her. A low, guttural growl that seemed to rise from some primal place she'd forgotten existed. The Mor'geth Alpha's ears flattened against its skull, confusion flickering in its predatory gaze. Good, Elena thought. Stay confused. She'd faced pack hunters before on other worlds. The key was never to show weakness, never to run, and never to let them separate you from what you were protecting. "Stay close to me," she whispered to the cubs, not taking her eyes off the circling predators. "Whatever happens, don't run unless I tell you to." The smallest cub, barely knee-high with fur so light it was almost white, pressed against her leg. Through her environmental suit, she could feel the rapid flutter of its breathing. The Mor'geth began their closing maneuver, a synchronized advance that spoke of countless successful hunts. Elena had seen this before. They would feint attacks from multiple directions, trying to panic their prey into breaking formation. Once scattered, the pack would pick them off one by one. But Elena wasn't prey. She was a human. The first feint came from her left. A Mor'geth darted forward, claws extended, only to veer away at the last second when Elena's plasma pistol tracked its movement. The pack was testing her reactions, her speed, her commitment to standing ground. The second feint came from behind. Elena spun, keeping the cubs within her protective circle, and the attacking Mor'geth found itself staring down the barrel of a weapon it had never seen before. It backed off, but not as far as the first one. They were learning, getting bolder. "Elena!" Ambassador Trell's voice crackled through her comm. "The Velani security forces are en route, but they're still 5 minutes out." 5 minutes. Elena's training kicked in automatically: threat assessment, ammunition count, tactical positioning. She had maybe 40 shots in her plasma pistol, and 8 known hostiles with unknown backup. The math wasn't encouraging. The Alpha Mor'geth made a sound, a series of clicks and growls that the other pack members responded to immediately. They tightened their circle, no longer feinting but preparing for a coordinated assault. Elena felt the change in the air, that electric moment before violence erupts. She'd experienced it on battlefields across the galaxy, and her body responded the same way every time. Heart rate slowing, vision narrowing to tactical focus, muscle memory taking over. But this time was different. This time, she wasn't fighting for territory or resources or political objectives. She was fighting for children who trusted her to keep them safe. The white-furred cub pressed closer to her leg, and Elena felt something shift inside her chest. A fierce, protective rage that went deeper than training, older than civilization. It was the same instinct that had driven human mothers to face down saber-toothed cats, that had made human fathers charge into burning buildings, that had transformed a species of persistence hunters into the galaxy's most notorious guardians. "You want them?" she growled at the Alpha, her voice carrying across the clearing. "Come and take them." The Mor'geth Alpha's response was immediate and decisive. It threw back its head and howled. Not the hunting call Elena had heard before, but something else. Something that sounded almost like respect. Then the attack began. 3 Mor'geth came at once, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm Elena's ability to track multiple targets. But Elena had fought pirates in the asteroid belts of Proxima Centauri, where split-second decisions meant the difference between life and explosive decompression. Her first shot caught the leftmost attacker center mass, the plasma bolt burning through its chest and sending it tumbling across the crystal-strewn ground. The second shot went wide as she spun to track another target, but the near miss was close enough to singe fur and send the creature scrambling for cover. The third Mor'geth came in low, trying to slip under her guard and get at the cubs. Elena's boot caught it in the snout with enough force to crack bone, and her follow-up shot ended its threat permanently. But the pack adapted quickly. The remaining 5 Mor'geth spread out further, using the crystal formations for cover, forcing Elena to constantly rotate to keep them all in view. Each movement risked exposing the cubs to attack from another angle. The white-furred cub, Elena had started thinking of her as Ghost, tugged at her environmental suit. "Human Captain." Ghost's small voice came through the translator, barely above a whisper. "We should run. The Mor'geth, they always win." "Not today, little one," Elena replied, tracking another movement in the underbrush. "Today they learn what happens when they threaten something a human is protecting." Another coordinated attack, this one more cautious. 2 Mor'geth created distractions while a third tried to circle around. Elena's shots drove them back, but she was burning through ammunition faster than she'd like. 18 shots remaining. The Alpha hadn't moved from its position at the edge of the clearing. It watched the battle with those intelligent eyes, learning her patterns, studying her tactics. Elena had seen that look before. It was the expression of a predator recognizing another predator. "Captain," Elder HFY's voice carried across the clearing. The Velani leader had emerged from cover, her usual serene composure replaced by desperate urgency. "The cubs, can you get them to the sanctuary grove? The Mor'geth cannot enter there." Elena glanced toward where HFY was pointing, maybe 50 meters through scattered crystal formations to a cluster of trees that seemed to glow with their own inner light. It might as well have been 50 kilometers with a pack of hunters waiting to cut them down. Too far, Elena called back. They'd pick us off before we made it halfway. But even as she spoke, Elena's tactical mind was working the problem. 50 meters. 3 cubs who could move fast when motivated. A pack of hunters who preferred to attack from ambush rather than open pursuit. It was possible. Maybe. Another attack, this one more serious. 2 Mor'geth came from different directions while a third tried to leap over her entirely and land among the cubs. Elena's shot caught the leaping predator in midair, but the other 2 pressed their assault, forcing her to use precious ammunition to drive them back. 12 shots left. The Alpha finally moved, rising from its crouch with fluid grace. It padded forward a few steps, head tilted, studying Elena with what looked almost like curiosity. When it spoke, a series of clicks and growls that Elena's translator couldn't parse. The other pack members stopped their harassment and listened. "What's it doing?" Elena muttered, keeping her weapon trained on the Alpha while trying to watch the others. "It's talking to you," Ghost whispered, wonder in her small voice. "The Mor'geth Alpha is trying to talk to you." Elena frowned. "My translator isn't picking it up. It's not speaking in words," another cub explained, this one older with darker silver fur. "It's speaking in hunter speech. Challenge speech." The Alpha made another series of sounds, more complex this time. Its body language was clear enough even without translation. It was offering something. A bargain, maybe, or a test. "What's it saying?" Elena asked. The older cub's voice was hushed with awe. It says you fight like a true pack leader. It offers single combat alpha to alpha. If you win, the pack leaves. If you lose, Elena understood. If she lost, the pack would take the cubs and probably her as well. But if she won, 3 young lives would be saved. It wasn't really a choice at all. Elena checked her plasma pistol's charge indicator. 12 shots remaining. Then looked down at the 3 cubs pressed against her legs. Ghost's large eyes reflected the amber sunlight, full of fear but also something else. Trust. Complete, absolute trust that this strange human would protect them no matter what. "Listen carefully," Elena said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "When I move toward the Alpha, you 3 run straight for that sanctuary grove Elder HFY showed us. Don't look back, don't hesitate, just run. Understand?" The older cub, Elena had mentally dubbed him Shadow, shook his head. "Human Captain, Mor'geth Alphas are—" "I know what they are," Elena interrupted gently. "I also know what I am." She stepped forward, addressing the Alpha directly. The creature was magnificent in its own terrible way, nearly 2 meters long, with muscles that rippled under its dark hide and intelligence that gleamed in its predatory eyes. It was built for killing, evolved for it, perfected by millions of years of successful hunts. But Elena was human, and humans had spent their evolutionary history turning the natural order upside down. The Alpha made another series of clicks and growls. This time, Elena's translator caught fragments. "Challenge? Accepted. Honor hunt. Death or yield." "Yeah," Elena said, raising her plasma pistol. "I got the gist." The other Mor'geth backed away, forming a rough circle around the clearing. This was primal law now, Alpha challenging Alpha with the pack as witness. Elena had seen similar rituals on a dozen worlds. Some things, it seemed, were universal. The Alpha crouched, muscles coiling like steel springs. Elena raised her weapon, finger on the trigger, every sense hypertuned to a razor's edge of readiness. The attack came faster than thought. The Alpha launched itself through the air in a blur of claws and fangs, covering the distance between them in a heartbeat. Elena's first shot went wide as she dove sideways, the Mor'geth's claws raking through the space where she'd been standing. She rolled, came up firing, but the Alpha was already moving again. These things were fast, faster than anything Elena had faced before. Her second shot scored a glancing hit along its flank, drawing a line of scorched fur but barely slowing it down. The Alpha spun, lashing out with its rear legs. Elena barely got her arms up in time to block the strike, but the impact sent her staggering backward. If not for the lighter gravity of Kepler 442b, the blow would have shattered bones. 8 shots left. The Alpha circled her now, looking for an opening. Elena tracked it with her weapon, but every time she thought she had a clear shot, it shifted position. It was learning her patterns, studying her timing. Smart. Too smart. Elena feinted left, then rolled right as the Alpha took the bait. Her next shot caught it in the shoulder, a solid hit that drew a snarl of pain and fury. But instead of backing off, the wound seemed to enrage the creature further. It came at her in a fury of claws and teeth, too fast and too close for the plasma pistol. Elena had a split second to make a choice: try for a point-blank shot that might miss or trust in more primitive weapons. She chose primitive. Elena reversed her grip on the plasma pistol and brought the reinforced butt down on the Alpha's skull with all the force her human muscles could generate. The impact sent shockwaves up her arm, but the Alpha staggered, momentarily stunned. She brought her knee up into its exposed throat, following up with an elbow strike to its spine. Hand-to-hand combat wasn't her specialty, but 15 years of service in dangerous sectors had taught her how to fight dirty when necessary. The Alpha recovered faster than she'd hoped. Its claws raked across her environmental suit, tearing through the tough material and drawing lines of fire across her ribs. Elena hissed in pain but kept fighting, using her superior reach to keep the creature at the edge of its striking distance. They circled each other now, both bleeding, both breathing hard. The Alpha's intelligent eyes held something Elena hadn't seen before: a flicker of uncertainty. It had expected an easy kill, not a protracted battle with a creature that fought back with the ferocity of its own kind. 7 shots left. But Elena was beginning to understand something about this fight that went beyond weapons and tactics. This wasn't really about killing the Alpha. This was about proving that she belonged here, that she was worthy of the cub's trust, worthy of standing between predator and prey. The Alpha seemed to sense her realization. It made a sound that might have been approval, then gathered itself for what Elena suspected would be its final attack. The Alpha's final charge was everything Elena had expected and more: a concentrated fury of evolution's perfect killing machine unleashed without reservation. But as it launched itself through the air, Elena made a choice that went against every tactical instinct she'd ever learned. She didn't shoot. Instead, she dropped into a crouch, letting the Alpha's momentum carry it over her, and drove her shoulder up into its exposed belly. The lighter gravity of Kepler 442b worked in her favor, as she used the creature's own weight and speed to send it flying in a controlled arc that ended with a bone-jarring impact against one of the crystal formations. The Alpha hit the ground hard but rolled to its feet with predatory grace. Blood matted its dark fur, and one of its legs showed signs of strain, but its eyes still burned with intelligent fury. Crouched for another attack, then stopped. Elena stood facing it, plasma pistol aimed but not firing, her own blood seeping through the tears in her environmental suit. For a long moment, human and alien predator stared at each other across the clearing. Then Elena did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She lowered her weapon. "I could have killed you," she said, knowing the Alpha couldn't understand her words but hoping it would understand her intent. 3 times during that fight I had clean shots, but I didn't take them. The Alpha's head tilted, those intelligent eyes studying her with newfound interest. "You're not evil," Elena continued, taking a careful step forward. "You're just doing what evolution made you to do. Hunting, surviving, protecting your pack. I respect that." Another step. The other Mor'geth watched with fascination as their Alpha remained still, neither attacking nor retreating. "But those cubs?" Elena gestured toward the sanctuary grove where the 3 young Velani had safely reached the protection of the glowing trees. "They're under my protection now, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe." Elena raised her plasma pistol again, not in threat but in salute, a warrior's acknowledgement of a worthy opponent. "So here's the deal," she said. "You can keep trying to take them, and eventually one of us will kill the other. Or you can accept that this territory now belongs to a different kind of pack leader." The Alpha made a sound, a complex series of clicks and growls that Elena's translator finally managed to parse. Understanding, respect, new territory, New pack leader. The great predator approached slowly, keeping its body language non-threatening but alert. When it reached Elena, it did something extraordinary. It lowered its head in what could only be described as a bow. Then it turned to its pack, made a series of authoritative sounds that needed no translation, and led them back into the crystal forest. But not before each pack member approached Elena and offered the same gesture of respect their alpha had shown. As the last Mor'geth disappeared into the undergrowth, Elena finally allowed herself to breathe. Her legs felt shaky, and the adrenaline crash was hitting harder than she'd expected. "Human Captain," Ghost's voice called out as the three cubs raced back from the sanctuary grove, their fear replaced by excitement and awe. "You faced down an entire Mor'geth pack. You made them leave." "Actually," Elena said, checking her weapon's charge indicator. 7 shots remaining, more than enough for the next time. "I think we came to an understanding." Elder HFY approached with Ambassador Trell, both of them looking stunned. "In 3 centuries of recorded history," the Velani leader said, "no one has ever faced a Mor'geth alpha in single combat and lived. How did you?" "Same way humans always do," Elena replied, looking down at the 3 cubs who now clustered around her legs with obvious affection. "We found something worth protecting, and we refused to give up." Shadow, the older cub, looked up at her with wonder in his large eyes. "The Mor'geth alpha called you pack leader in the hunter speech. What does that mean?" Elena smiled, remembering something her grandmother had told her long ago on the frontier colony where she'd grown up. "Humans aren't the strongest or the fastest or the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, little one, but we're the only predators who chose to become guardians instead of just hunters." "It means," Elena said, her hand resting gently on Ghost's small head, "that this territory has a new protector, and anyone who wants to threaten what I'm protecting is going to learn why humans earned their reputation across the galaxy." As they walked back toward the Velani settlement, Elena's comm unit crackled with an incoming message from command. Her report on the feasibility of establishing a human research outpost on Kepler 442b would probably be the shortest and most definitive she'd ever filed. Request approved. Permanent human presence established. Recommend immediate colony ship deployment. Because sometimes the best way to explore the galaxy wasn't as visitors or researchers or diplomats. Sometimes the best way was as guardians. Captain Elena Vasquez remained on Kepler 442b as the first colonial protection officer, establishing the protocols that would eventually become standard for all human frontier settlements. Her actions that day became the foundation for what historians would later call the Guardian Doctrine. The principle that human expansion into the galaxy carried with it an absolute responsibility to protect those who could not protect themselves. The 3 Velani cubs she saved, Ghost, Shadow, and their companion Whisper, grew up to become the first interspecies diplomatic corps, facilitating peaceful contact between their people and dozens of other species. They never forgot the lesson they learned that day. That true strength isn't about being the biggest predator, but about choosing who you'll stand up for when the predators come calling. The Mor'geth pack, for their part, established a symbiotic relationship with the human colony, providing protection from other threats in exchange for territory rights and hunting grounds. It was the first recorded instance of successful predator-to-predator diplomacy in galactic history, but Elena Vasquez never thought of it in such grand terms. When asked about her actions during the incident, her response was characteristically human. They were kids who needed protecting. Everything else was just details.